Hello everyone and welcome back to Let's Play Pokemon FireRed. In the last part, we finished off our business in Cerulean, defeating Misty and her god-awfully annoying Starmie, and now we're in the SSN, which is a bit of a different dungeon for the game and how it's handled. We're only able to come here the one time. Once we finish our business here, this place will no longer be accessible to us, barring in the original Gen 1, I think even in this game, a glitch depending on if you actively intentionally lose a battle at a certain point after using the Pokemon Center, because I'll just teleport you right out of here. Speaking of which, there's actually a healing point in this one. You can talk to this girl here, and she will heal you. I don't think that was in the original Gen 1, but don't quote me. I have not played the original Gen 1 in over 6 years. The SSN is full, and I mean absolutely full, of Pokemon trainers, though. Including the gentleman here, which I think is a new class that we haven't seen yet. They tend to use fire types, particularly Growlithe. But overall, they tend to focus on Pokemon that you would see as pets almost. Like the Nidorans, the Growlithes, I think some Vulpixes and some later on. You get used to having fire types against you. I'm still going to be cutting back to that healing room every now and then, by the way, just because I'm overly anxious when it comes to using healing in Pokemon games. What do you mean I'm at the end of an hour-long dungeon and I'm going to run back to the most recent Pokemon Center? What do you mean that's not really efficient? What? I even did that stuff in Sword and Shield. I am very overzealous when it comes to healing my Pokemon. Also, this is, I think, a first occurrence for us that I haven't talked about yet. I think. Whenever there's an instance like this where you're forced to fight at least one of two battles in order to get to, like, an item or even their main pathway, I'm going to fight both battles. Like, I'm going to fight this lass and then her little brother / older brother, the youngsters at the bottom left of me. I'm only going to show one of the fights, because since that makes the other one inherently optional, it means I don't have to show it. Unless there's a new Pokemon, of course. There we get TM31 Brick Break, which is one of my favorite moves in the series. It's a fighting type move that has a secondary side effect by removing any of the opponent's light screen or reflect moves, which increase their defense and special defense, respectively, I think? Somewhere abouts there. Think of it as a defense piercing spell from Final Fantasy that just removes buffs. It's really good. It's also relatively powerful. I'm probably going to put that on one of my team members by end game. Also new to Gen 3 in this kitchen, there are berries in the trash cans over here. A moment ago we got a Great Ball, which is an improved variant of the base Pokeball. The best way I can compare it is that it's a modifier. The Pokeball itself has a catch rate modifier of 1, the Great Ball of 1.5. Catch rate is something I haven't exactly gone into yet, because every wild Pokemon you encounter has one that determines the chances of a Pokeball even shaking once. But the chain of calculations that go into every Pokemon shake are ridiculously long, and while I do like going into that kind of stuff for maybe like my Final Fantasy stuff with Kenny, not so much here. Yeah, at all, really. No. It's way too long. I just recommend either going onto Belbapedia or Cerebee's Catch Rate page and learning from there if you want to learn. It's a lot. Either way, on to more relevant things. This Sailor, I think this is Sailor Duncan, has a new Pokemon for us to fight. This is Tentacle. You'll eventually be able to find these in the water just with the next upgrade of Rod, I believe. Water poison type, so it's weak to ground, electric, and psychic. If you want a decent special defense-oriented Pokemon, especially given water's usual defensive nature, the Tentacle line's a pretty good one. There's a reason a certain Nintendo-focused Let's Player that a lot of people follow used one during their Emerald LP. I just don't care to myself, because for my playstyle, defense is cool, but I prefer having two things. My main focus is type coverage and moveset or defenses. I want to make sure I have a lot of varied types to make sure I can cover a lot of types. And I also like to be as offensive as possible. Well, if I'm not attacking and taking things out in 1 to 3 shots, I'm not doing it right. I will say, if you've caught an electric type thus far, the SSN is one of the best places to level it up at this point in the game. Because there are a lot of Horsies, a lot of Tentacles, and a lot of Shelters, meaning you can train it up very quickly. Kenny's going to be gaining a couple of levels here, though nothing too substantial. But if I had to recommend one thing if you're going for like the easiest boss fights, I actually recommend going a little bit out of your way. You might remember last part. when we went to Route, I think it's 11 to the east of us right now. I went out of my way to go there, but I didn't go into a cave we saw along the way there. I'd recommend going in there and catching one of the Pokemon in there, because there's ground types in there, and that's going to be very useful during the next gym, and training it up here isn't a bad idea. That's Rest. Rest is an interesting move in that it's one that doesn't do any damage on its own. What it does is that it puts the Pokemon who uses it to sleep and heals their HP. However, sleep is a status ailment that doesn't go away for between 2 to 5 turns. So you're going to be leaving yourself open unless you do one of two things. Either A, have an attack that allows you to do damage while sleeping. There's one called Snore that does that. Or 2, have a berry on it that heals sleep among once it hits you. I forget which berry that is exactly, but use that. Or you could be like me and just not bother, because that's better for a stall tactic, if anything. And beyond using Recover here in the early game on a Kadabra, I'm not a big fan of stall tactics in Pokemon. Also, something that is interesting with the SS Anne is that its name in Japan isn't the SS Anne, it's the Saint Anne, and that is a reference to another one of Game Freak's games. Their Sega Genesis Mega Drive game that was only released, I think, in Japan, Pulseman, which is a little bit of a weird Mega Man-like. It's not a run and gunner, but it's a platform with some elements similar to Mega Man. It's a fun game, and one I really should cover on the channel at some point, but we'll get to that when the time comes. It's just a cute little reference. And it's always going to be interesting looking back, because some of my first memories of Pokemon wasn't with the games. I got introduced to the series through the anime when I was really little, and we had a VHS tape that had, I think, 2 or 3 episodes on it. The ones that were on there, one of them was the SS Anne episode, or at least the second one, where they think Team Rocket and Ash's crew died because they were still on the SS Anne while it sank. The episode opens with Officer Jenny and a bunch of other people on a different boat throwing a bouquet into the water and playing taps because they think these people are freaking dead. And then looking back, that's sad, but it's also really funny. As messed up as that might sound, it's just funny to me. That's also the VHS that had the, I think the latter Tentacruel episode, and the episode with the giant Pokemon robots. I think. Now, that may have been 2 separate VHSs now that I think about it, because I definitely had at least 2. Though I think overall my first introduction to Pokemon, if it wasn't catching an episode when I was a real little kid on the TV, a family friend, Jackie, she had a VHS of Pokemon 2000, and I loved watching it. At the age where the ending of Who Framed Roger Rabbit terrified the shit out of me, because, wow, Christopher Lloyd goes ham in that last scene as the villain. Oh, I love that movie nowadays, but I got scared. I was a cowardly little guy. Either way, new Pokemon time. This is Ponyta, a pure fire type, so it's weak to ground, rock, and water. It has a decently high attack stat, and its other specialty is speed. It's an okay fire type, and its evolution even more so. At this point in the series, though, before the physical special split, where fire was only special type in terms of what stat it used, it's not the best. If you're going for a fire type in Gen 1 or FireRed Leaf Green, again, I'm going to recommend the Charmander line, the Growlithe line, or the Vulpix line. Particularly the former 2 of those 3, because the evolution of Growlithe is really good. The evolution of Vulpix is also good. It's also really pretty, just not as good as the other ones statistically and battle-wise, for my tastes, at least. Gen 4 onwards, things change a bit, so yeah. And we're almost done with the SS Anne, so I'm quickly went back for one more heal, because look who it is. Bonjour, Kyle! Imagine seeing you here. Kyle, were you really invited? So how's your Pokedex coming? I already caught 40 kinds, pal. Different kinds are everywhere. Crawl around in the grassy areas and look hard for them. Time for our 4th fight against Blue, and his team has seen some evolution. However, he still starts off with the Pidgeotto. Tackle, Gust, Sand Attack, and Quick Attack. Same thing, stuff as usual. Its Keen Eye ability allows it to prevent you from lowering its accuracy, which kind of sucks. But for my playstyle, where I don't really have many stat-lowering moves, it doesn't matter too much. Next up, I believe... Ooh, Anthem leveled up. Actually, doesn't he learn something this level? No, he learned that off-screen. He's now evolved his Squirtle into Wartortle. Withdraw, which higher its defense. Torrent, which is just Water Elemental Blaze. Bite, Bubble, and Water Gun. Don't draw out a Fire type against this thing, you would be dumb to do so. Wartortle, as a middle evolution goes in Gen 1, is okay. High defense, high special defense, because I think out of all three of the starters, Bulbasaur's also the tanky... Bulbasaur. The Squirtle line's also the tankiest, just due to the fact that, you know, Turtle. Weak to Grass and Electric, but, again, not to my preferences. I say I'm a Fire-type starter all the time, and that is mainly true for LPs and first playthroughs, and also a lot of revisits. There are times, especially when I was younger, where I experimented around with the starters. If I had to have a preference, I'd say Water is probably my second favorite starter type, and Grass in third, barring maybe Gen 3's Trico, and maybe the Snivy line. I think I used the Chestnut line once, and I wasn't too thrilled with it, even though I liked the design enough. Like, well, from the third one. Chespin's kind of and I can't even remember the name of the middle stage, but that thing is disturbing. Either way, in a rare moment of congruency between us and Blue, he also has a Kadabra. However, unlike him, I have a way to inflict extraordinary damage to this thing because Aqua has Bite. This is also one of the reasons I decided to grab this Magikarp back before Mount Moon, because having the ability to use a Dark-type move without having to use a TM for this fight is really good, because Kadabra in the right hands is really annoying. Huh. At least you're raising your Pokemon. I heard there was a Cut Master on board, but he was just a seasick old man. Cut itself is really useful. Yep, it'll be handy. You should go see him too. Smell ya. You know, as a kid, I read that as him going, maybe, but like, it almost seems like he's actually encouraging you to get better too. Almost. Also, wait. Oh, I feel hideous. Seasick. You're a sea captain who gets seasick easily. I think you made the wrong career choice. Whew, thank you. I'm feeling much better now. Want to see my hidden cut technique? I could show you my prized cut technique if I weren't so ill. I know, you can have this hidden machine. Teach cut to your Pokemon and you can see it cut anytime. And we get our first HM. HMs are specialty TMs that allow you not only to do something in the overworld, but still use them in battle. For instance, Cut can cut down the small trees we may have seen in the overworld thus far. The only thing is, once you teach a Pokemon an HM, it cannot be unlearned until you reach a certain point later on in the game where there's a specific person meant to delete moves from a Pokemon. And this is why the SSN's 1 trip, it leaves. There is a way, though, I think you have to make sure you don't use the healing point in the SSN to do this, where if you get cut and then intentionally lose to another battle, you can just leave it there and come back to it later in case you want to do something. I don't care to do that, though. With that, we can now access the Vermillion Jim, because there is a little tree blocking it. However, I need to go teach Cut to a Pokemon. And my original plan at the start of this LP for Mankey to learn it, or Zoe, didn't go too well, because I completely forgot Mankey can't learn Cut. However, the Farfetch'd we got in a trade last part can. Cut itself isn't too spectacular a move. It's more or less, I believe, a more powerful scratch attack. But I'm gonna have this Farfetch'd in my party at a lot of random times going forward just to make sure I can cut down trees such as this. With that, welcome to Vermillion Jim, otherwise known as a Squirtle chooser's worst nightmare. Yo, champ in the making. Lieutenant Surge has a nickname. People refer to him as the Lightning American. He's an expert on electric Pokemon, but water-type Pokemon match poorly against the electric-type. Beware of paralysis, too. Lieutenant Surge is very cautious. He's locked himself in, so it won't be easy getting to him. I hate this gym, because there's no actual real challenge to it. There's only 4 trainers, including the leader himself, and they all have fairly standard Pokemon. In fact, I'm taking them all on right now because I can. That'll allow me to go visit the Pokemon Center right then and there. The problem with this gym is its mechanic, because this is the first gym to have an actual puzzle element to it that more or less every gym's going to have going forward anyway, at least in terms of avoiding trainers. For this gym, we have the 2 little beam lasers in front of me. To unlock those, we need to find 2 switches located randomly in these trash cans, and I do mean randomly. Which one it chooses for the first switch is completely random, so you just need to check until you hope you find it. I'm not sure if it's random and it switches every time you investigate a different trash can, or if it switches one and then is stuck in that one until you find it. The problem is, once you find the first electric lock, you have 1 investigation chance to find the second one before the first one resets, meaning you have to start all over. The second lock is always located in one of the immediately adjacent 4 trash cans, so you have a relatively good chance of finding it. By that I mean a 1 in 25 shot, unless you get one of the edges, in which case it's either a 1 in 3 or a 1 in 2 shot. But this is just tedious and annoying. I don't like this gym. I don't like it one bit. No, I don't, Sam, I am. You could be here for less than a minute. You could be here for over 10, just depending on how good your luck is. It's not like there's an actual way to tell which one of the 4 it's in, too. It's just, ugh. Hey, kid, what do you think you're doing here? You won't live long in combat, not with your puny power. I'll tell you, kid, electric Pokemon saved me during the war. They zap my enemies into paralysis. Same as I'll do to you. Another instance of this game, of the first Pokemon gens, being supposedly set in the real world, because the Kanto and Johto regions are just outright based off parts of Japan. As the gym guy told us, though, this entire gym is based off electric Pokemon, including Lieutenant Surge. His first Pokemon is a Voltorb who goes down relatively simply. I believe it has Shockwave, Tackle, Screech, and Sonic Boom being a damaging normal-type move from my memory. It also has the ability Soundproof, which prevents any sound-based attacks from affecting it. This got more effective in Gen 4 onwards, where there were even, I think, some more damaging sound-based moves, but for here it's more or less status prevention, or, well, status prevention and status of lowering prevention, more accurately. And I will take that Recover. I'll get rid of Teleport for that, because even though I don't like using these kind of moves often, I don't want to accidentally run from a Pokemon battle. Lieutenant Surge's Pikachu has Shockwave, Thunder Wave, Quick Attack, and Double Team, and the usual static ability. This is where things get funny, though, because obviously Shockwave is the most effective move because it has same attack bonus, and it's the Electric-type gym. But the nearby cave only has Ground-type Pokemon in it, and Ground is completely immune to Electric-type. So you can catch one there, and while they'll still have a way to damage you, you'll be much more in the open, or much more... You'll be less likely to get hit with very effective moves. His final Pokemon is Raichu, the evolution of Pikachu. Candy's going to become one of these way later down the road. Shockwave, Thunder Wave, Quick Attack, and Double Team. Just think of it as his previous Pikachu just evolved. Same ability, it's just faster. Raichu, though, is a really, really, really good Pokemon for my tastes, though. Extraordinarily high attack and speed, and, well, yes, this is at the point where... Electric was, I believe, still special attack. The Electric-type moves it learns are powerful enough to the point where it won't matter as much. Plus, it learns some pretty good physical moves throughout the game, too. It's still pure Electric-type, which means its only weakness is Ground, too, which is really good. This thing could cause some trouble, though, if you're playing with the Squirtle team, just because you're much more likely to get hit with a very effective move, and nobody likes that. Let's just have Kenny finish it off. Because, the fight from the anime went like this. Lieutenant Surge was a giant in the anime. Like, I know Ash is only 10, but Lieutenant Surge was like 8 feet tall. It's one of the weirder episodes in the Kanto stuff. I haven't kept up too much with the anime over the past couple of years. I marathoned at least into mid-Johto about 3 years ago, but I haven't gone back since, and I really should at some point. Because my time in the anime ended in early Gen 4. Now that's a shocker. You're the real deal, kid. Fine then, take the Thunder Badge. And this badge is a little bit interesting. The Thunder Badge cranks up your Pokemon's speed. It also lets your Pokemon fly lightning quick anytime, kid. You're special, kid. Take this. And we get TM34. TM34 contains Shockwave. Teach it to an electric Pokemon. Shockwave isn't the strongest Electric-type move, but it always hits, so if you're looking for a very quick hit that you're guaranteed to get, it's good for that. Oh, hello, Kyle. How are you doing? It's me, one of Professor Oak's aides. Did you meet the other aide? He had a package from Professor Oak for you, Kyle. He said he'd look for you around Route 2, Kyle. If you're looking in the Route 2 area, please look for him. Let's go look for that guy, because we have to go through the next dungeon anyway to get to him. This next place is Diglettz Cave. There are only Digletts here, and its evolution. Apparently they dug this cave, and it's going to take us right back to Vermillion City. Now, very quickly, that Lieutenant Surge mentioned that it raises our stat speed. In Gen 1 and 2, and I think maybe Gen 3, certain badges do raise the certain stats of Pokemon upwards of 10%. It's pretty good for that. I'll talk more about that in a moment, because right now we have Diglett, pure ground type, weak to water, grass, and ice. It's not very beefy. It only has, I think its HP is one of the lowest HP stats in the game. But its speed is one of the highest in the original Gen 1. It's not awful. In fact, I dare say its evolution is really good. But not to my tastes again. I have another ground type in mind for later on anyway. Anyway, as I was saying, badges, yeah, they can raise your stats upwards of 10% here in Gen 3. The Boulder badge actually did it too. In particular, it boosted our attack 10%, whereas the Thunder badge here in FireRed Leaf Green boosts the speed by 10%. If you're playing the original Red, Blue, and Yellow, though, it boosts defense by 10%, which honestly could be the better buff depending on who you are. I prefer to go fast and take things out quickly, but So, welcome back to Route 2. We haven't been here in a couple of parts. In particular, we're just south of Pewter City. But now we want to head south, because there's a house here for some reason. I don't know how these people get out of their houses easily. And the particular thing about this house is this person here. I'm looking for the Pokemon Abra. Want to trade one for my Mr. Mime? No. However, in between parts, I am going to go back to Cerulean City and catch another Abra to give to that kid, for a reason that we'll see next part, I think. For now, let's just head further south, because there is now this building we can access. Hi, remember me? I'm Professor Oak's aides. If your Pokedex has complete data on 10 species, I'm supposed to give you a reward. Professor Oak has entrusted me with HM05, so Kyle, let me ask you. Have you gathered data on at least 10 kinds of Pokemon? Great, you've caught or something 11 Pokemon, blah blah blah, we get HM05. HM05 contains the hidden move Flash. It lights up even the darkest of caves and dungeons. It also lowers the accuracy, I believe, of Pokemon that you're fighting when you use it in battle. HM05 isn't technically needed to beat the game, it just lights up an area that you can get through anyway, but I'm gonna get it for the sake of, not completion, but making things easier to see for you guys. I've gone through the game without getting it, because the dungeon we're going to use it in isn't the most complicated, but yeah, it's gonna make things easier on you. In fact, in PokeMMO, I completely bypassed it, because I didn't care to catch that many Pokemon. Anyway, welcome back to Vermillion City. I must have dozed off in the sun. I had this weird dream about a drowsy eating my dream, and I learned how to eat dreams. Oh, this is too spooky. Let me teach it to a Pokemon so I can forget about it. He teaches you Dream Eater, which, if a Pokemon that you're fighting is asleep, you can use that on them to do damage that's a bit higher than most moves, I believe. I think it also impacts a stat. But with that, I'm going to need to end this off here. Thank you guys for watching, and in part 8, we're going to meet back with that kid to trade him an Abra, and then head back to Cerulean, because in order to progress, we need to head back there. See you guys then.